we are going to talk about the mindset of a successful leader. So, thank you for joining, and we plan to give you a lot of insights as we move forward. And I am joined by my good friend and business partner, Sohin Shah, who's back in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm based here in London, United Kingdom. Sohin, a few words to our viewers, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all our viewers, audiences across the globe. And we warmly welcome you as Rent Director to this live event, webinar. And as usual, we are going to be sharing to you valuable insights. Today's topic, which is a very interesting one and full of insights, and that is the mindset of a successful leader. I'm sure you're all curious to know what we're going to be sharing. So I think I don't want to take, I wouldn't want to take a lot of the time. I would want to get jump into the major matters and just a few points about the housekeeping. Please feel free to uh, point out any points that you might want to share on the chat or I mean the LinkedIn messaging, and also of course our YouTube channel should be live also.
And Facebook.
Apart from that, we do insist as usual. Please do take the points and jot them down and write them so that you will remember the various points that we are going to be sharing. These are million-dollar nuggets that, as Vijay says. So I guess over to Vijay
Thank you.
to take it off.
Thank you, Soin, for those kind words. And yes, just like what Soin mentioned, look, my friends, post your comments, say hi, let us know where you are coming from as well. I mean, just let's interact as well. But why did we choose this topic about the leadership mindset? There's many discussions out there about the leadership mindset. And here's the thing, 80% of your success, this is what we believe, 80% of your success dwells around the mindset itself. The impact of your thinking and how you perceive and put context to what you are doing makes, or rather, is the key ingredient to all the moving parts for you to step up the game, for you to grow, for you to evolve as well. So, this is the reason why we brought in this particular discussion on the leadership mindset, especially right now in 2021. We are in the second phase of 2021, and there are so many uncertainties. The pandemic is still globally present, and we are still combating the next phase of uncertainties which are just unfolding as we are discussing. Global landscape is changing, everything is keeping on rapidly changing. So what I want to do today is, with Soin, we are going to share with you some of the core concepts that you can take home and apply and practice. That is our purpose, is for you to take a few points and practice, because practice is going to lead to mastery. Practice is where the impact is going to be. So just take a few points from this. And I want to kick off this discussion by first and foremost talking about the challenges which leaders face. There are those leaders who are not successful, and there are those who are successful. So let's start by kicking off the discussion and giving you some sort of a realization and a wake up call of what some of these leaders who are not so successful doing, the weak leaders as such. And so maybe you can shed some light, but a couple of points which I have is, of course, you know these excuses, having this excuses every now and again. This is a weak leader we are talking about. So maybe I'll ask you to share a couple of insights when it comes to excuses and that sort of story they keep on saying.
I think it's a very valid point, and that a lot of leaders, when targets are not being met, on a day-to-day basis or on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. Uh, you know, at the end of the month, when they're asked what went wrong, why was this target not achieved, they come up with all the sorts of excuses. In short, what I say is basically you want to satisfy yourself, your ego. But the thing that needs to be done is to carry out a YY analysis. And also, apart from that, I mean, the aspect, these excuses can become a habit. So there are, of course, there are going to be various points that we will be sharing as to how to avoid to get into that kind of a trap. So I don't want to get into that at this stage, but as we speak, we are talking about the challenges, and I know for a fact a lot of leaders get into this trap of giving excuses. The actual thing that needs to be done, we will definitely share as we go along. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Zoe. And what you need to really think about is what is the root cause of these excuses. And research indicates that you and I, we've got about 60,000 thoughts every single day. 95% of those thoughts spill over to the next day. What does that really mean, and why does it really reflect in what we are discussing here? It's because of the mindset and that behavior, the pattern of belief and behavior that one has. And just like what Soin mentioned, that getting into this camouflage or getting into these excuses gives them inner comfort that they are okay, and whatever they are doing is good. But obviously we know that that is not the uh, true sort of successful ingredient for those leaders who step up the game differently. So let's move to the second point, which is again reactive. And this we are talking about the weak leaders and those leaders who are sort of struggling. And we have noted that this reactive ability of reacting, and I'll give you a practical example. This just happened a couple of days ago, and one of our clients, it was a manufacturing organization. All the results are positive. Everything is going in the right direction. The profits are high. The revenues, I mean, yeah, the revenues, the profits, everything. If you look at the efficiency levels as well, they are at a level which has not been there in this particular company. The liquidity is good as well. But here's the thing: one small error or one small element which is not or a mistake that was made has been expounded completely by this one particular leader, which sort of demotivates and it drains that level of positive energy which the team has. And so maybe you can share or you can extend to what I've just said.
I think, simply put, it's like when you have a complete white bed sheet and there is a small speck of dirt at the edge. The tendency, what we have noticed in many leaders, is that you want to focus on that black dot, not looking that the entire 99% of the bed sheet is completely white. I mean, this is a point, and I will say that you've not, you've not, you've, you've not tainted the entire bed sheet. It's just that small issue, and this is where we also look at when we measure our the staff. There is a tendency to focus on the weakness, whereas there are so many innate strengths that are there. So if the energies are focused on the white areas and not on the gray ones, and build on that, then a lot of progress and a lot of growth can come out of that. I hope that elaborates on the point that Vijay talked about.
Yes. So that's so important. And the example that you gave about the white bedsheet, absolutely spot on, because it's that one particular point or a mistake or an error or negligence, whatever it is, which has been expounded. And that is a key drainer, as we know. Another key point which I want to really mention is negativity. I mean, we have mentioned about reactive, and it somehow interrelates as well. And so maybe you can share some light when it comes to negativity, which we have seen in so many instances, that mindset of being negative. So
I think it's simple, as you said, reactive and negative is intertwined. In the sense, how let me take an example is when you find a bit of a weakness in some person, then you want to measure simply on that, and that becomes your benchmark. Now, what happens is that instead of focusing on the strengths, you're going to look at the weakness, and that's what will bring the whole entire thing down. So a lot of negativity can as usual, we keep on saying that positivity brings the positive, it attracts positive. Now, of course, when you look at, and we always say be positive, change your blood group to be positive. But if you keep on focusing on the negative, I mean, the direction that is headed, then the company's direction, the organization direction, is not going to change so much. So I think what I'm trying to say in here is so much lies in when you are exuding the positivity, definitely results will follow suit, and that is the laws of nature. When you prescribe positivity, the results are always going to align towards that. Over to you, Vijay.
thank you, Soin. And again, viewers, just a reminder: do say hello to us. Just post in any comments if you have any questions as well. Happy to take those as well. And just like what Soin has mentioned, as far as negativity is concerned, when you have, or when a leader has a negative mindset, that suppresses growth. And what happens is negative about the economy, negative about the future, negative about so many other issues, even negative about the staff as well. So they don't see the positive part of things. And this is another key component which really is an energy drainer. Another key point which I want to bring forward, just for you to realize when it comes to a weak leadership, is dabblers. And I mean, we have seen so many examples of this dabblers. What do we really mean by dabblers? Is not giving enough time to one particular initiative or one particular project or one particular uh, activity or whatever it is, not giving that enough time, and jumping from one to another. This is such a costly mistake, but at the same time, it sort of defocuses you, it dilutes your focus from the true element of growth. And in one particular company, there were these brothers, and what we really noted is that they were just going from uh, one aspect to another. And I'll give you an example. There was one particular company, they were looking into one particular software, and after 3 months they were looking into another one. And they were just dabbling around, and this is a key element. So maybe you can add a couple of points to that.
I think it's very clear. This is where we will go into sharing how to overcome this. But dabbling is a feature that we have seen in various leaders, and this is what affects a lot of decisions that have been taken. So what happens is when you dabble and you have invested into something that is quite enormous in value, it is actually material investment, then you all of a sudden you find a different object which suits your fancy, and then you move on to that as investing in that item, or vehicle, or whatever suits, whatever fancies you. Now you move from one to second to third and fourth. By that time you've lost you've lost your focus, and you've lost putting in energies in the first one. So ultimately, what happens is that first item, without that energy, you've lost the opportune moment to make your results appear or manifest itself. So ultimately, in our language, we say this is where a white elephant starts to grow, and this
Right.
is where the investment then becomes completely redundant, and and you have completely missed the boat. So instead of I mean, of course, I'm diverting, but instead of dabbling, the real aspect is what we are going to go into, and that is the mindset. So those changes in mindset that we're going to talk about as we go along in this session is very important to avoid the habit of dabbling. And we have seen that in so many leaders where dabbling takes over, and you clearly miss the bus. Over to you, Vijay.
Thanks, Soin. Yes, yes, so important. And this is we've seen a lot of these examples when it comes to dabbling. Another weakness is blame. And I mean, we were completely stunned. One particular business owner, he came up to us and he's saying, "Look, Soin and Vijay, my staff, they're just not working. He's the lead, he's the owner, and he kept on blaming others for the results, for the poor results. But he did not take into consideration the root cause, and he kept on complaining and he kept on blaming others. We then went on to speak to the head of department, and they started speaking the same language, blaming others. So this is the sort of culture they had built. And obviously, we don't need to tell you about the results and the struggles this company had. But this is another key, big mindset problem which many leaders have. So, do you want to add to this?
I mean, this is so frequently we have encountered this, and that is the issue of blame game. And I always say it is summarized in a simple thing. When you are pointing a finger at somebody, remember, I think three fingers are pointing back at you.
Hmm.
So I think what needs to be done is to be seen as to what is the real issue. Dig into it deeper. I'm again going into it because we always say that when we are proposing challenges, we should look at solutions. So even the person who is coming up with the issue should have a solution to it, at least an idea of how to resolve it, even if it is not a full solution, but he will have a 15-20% of it, and then as you get together heads together, it can be resolved. So what I'm trying to say, coming back to the issue of blame, is that instead of just it's very easy to blame. Take the hard route, investigate, get deeper into it, and find a solution of how to resolve the issue together. And remember, as a group you are a team. Okay, so whatever position you could be, your subordinate, you and instead of passing the blame, why don't why what we are trying to say is, why can't the team come together and address that, focus on the strengths, cover the weakness so that it's not coming out and it's not a sore thumb, and the issue can be resolved very amicably in a good way, and there is a win-win situation across the board. So this issue of having a win-win attitude is what is required at that level. So again, I think Vijay will tell me I'm going into the next part of the this session. But anyway, that this is the nature of us, because we want to share our minds in a free flowing manner. Over to
Yeah.
you, Vijay.
Yes, thanks. As Soin mentioned, our intention is quite pure to, add as much value as we can in this, not only this session but all of our sessions basically. So we are very congruent when it comes to adding value. The final point which I want to share with you about a weak leader, And again, there are very many others as well, but for the sake of time and for the sake of this session, is anger as well. And we have noted that some leaders, they just get angry. It's that emotional outburst as well. So it could be hitting the ego or something on those lines. But here's what we've realized, that when somebody gets angry, there's also some fear within. So there is that level of fear within, and that sort of even how shall I put it? I'm trying to use the right word. It sort of puts you off track your identity, if you see where I'm coming from, because anger can be quite it can lead to failures, from what I've seen and from our experience. Soin and I, we've had decades of experience, and we have noted that those who are angry get a lot of frustration, get a lot of stress. They could be billionaires as well. We've even seen that, but they have health issues as well, and they have other issues which creep in. So in final words, before we move into the mindset of a successful leader, so final words on anger, if you can just add your thoughts on that.
Trust me, Vijay, I think we are dealing with a lot of characters where the anger management issues. And really speaking, as you rightfully say, anger is a manifestation of frustration, misalignment, inner misalignment, the accumulation of doubts, and there has that yes, there has to be a channel of dissipating this anger. It has to come out, otherwise it can become a cancer. But there are ways of of getting it out, and of course that it's almost a topic for how leaders can handle anger management. But simple tips, which we are of course again going to be carrying, we're going to be sharing, and they're really well covered in the next couple of points. But let me not diverge let me not let the cat out of the bag. But these are very important tools that need to be taken up very strongly, so that anger is that it's a build-up of energy that needs to be let out in a very nice way. When it is let out in a nice way, trust me, the outcomes, the results are going to be completely different kind compared to what it could be in the form of destructive nature. And when you are dealing with organizations which are in most cases run by people, when anger is not managed correctly, the human nature is always about hiding and running into caves, and that does not let the organization prosper. So this is something that needs to be really well managed and addressed at the right time. So those are my few comments. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So well said and well articulated there. Now, my dear friends, we now shift gears into the mindset of a successful leader. And by the way, we have witnessed companies grow 20-fold, and we have picked up that common pattern of what they do on a day-to-day basis. You see, this is the differentiating factor of successful leaders from those who are struggling. So we just want to share these ones of the successful mindset from what we have witnessed on what they do day to day, which makes them stand apart. The first and foremost is laser sharp focus. Now, here's a metaphor I want to share with you, that if you see a lioness on a hunt, and a lioness who's fixated on this one particular wildebeest. Say there's a herd of wildebeest, and she's fixated on one particular wildebeest. In most instances, it would be a weak wildebeest. And when she attacks and when she runs, she her focus is only going to be on that one particular wildebeest she focused on. Irrespective, she could easily catch another wildebeest running just adjacent to her. but her focus is going to be on that one particular wildebeest. Similarly, successful leaders are going to focus on the leverage drivers. They are going to focus on ensuring that the short term and the long term are deeply linked and connected, translating vision into reality. And we have seen this in many organizations. What happens is that they don't micromanage; they delegate effectively. But the way they focus and the way their conversations are, the communication, the heightened level of communication is always related to the long term and the linkage of the long term and the short term. And this is an art, it's a skill set which they have developed. And it's that mindset they have of ensuring that irrespective of whatever the other deviations are, they are laser focused in achieving their goals and objectives. So, do you want to add a couple of points to this?
No, I think I love the example of the lion hunting a deer or a wildebeest, and well, we know that the migration is has just started. So very interesting as to how even with so many obstacles that lion may face, but it still goes after that wildebeest, but with absolute precision and absolute focus. They normally get it, and that is because of the hunger that is there. So what we see is that in a mindset of a successful leader who has got the hunger, who has got the fire, when if that hunger and the fire in the belly is focused, the goals can be achieved no matter what. So this comes back to what we had discussed earlier, and that is, instead of giving excuses, why don't we work on avenues of putting all the focus on achieving the goals? And then I'm sure achieving 120% is also possible.
Thank
Over
you,
to you.
thank you, thank you. So, yeah, that's so important. I mean, you can exceed expectations when you have the right focus in place.
Absolutely.
The
I
second
think,
point, which is
simply put, you can break all the barriers that are there. Sorry to interrupt you,
no,
Vijay.
true. You're right. You break barriers. You exceed expectations. In fact, one client, we because of the focus, and there are other parts as well, which we'll come to. I think because of the focus and what we have uh, accomplished, and I think Soin and I we need to celebrate on this a virtual celebration because of the pandemic. I can't travel. Um, is breaking no, in fact, looking into the results of the June results of one company, which was it 400% increase in revenue? I mean, in profits. Swing.
Yes, 400%. What was the previous year, and surpassing the current targets by 300% in terms of bottom line. I always say top line is vanity, bottom line is what it is, and cash is king. So the cash is even better. So when you're going back to the bank and the bank is questioning you, why are you returning all this money? That should actually give you a lot of confidence as to where this company is going. So over to you, Vijay.
Yes, yes, yes. It's been. I mean, it's even I thought that was a bit magical. So yes, there was a business transformation that we were doing for a couple of companies, and the results are really proven to be good. But again, it was to do with the focus, not blaming COVID or not blaming the economy or not blaming the conditions. They are there, accept, identify, but you look for the solutions. We'll be coming into the solutions anyway. Now, the second point I want to put forward, which is so important, my dear friends, you may have heard this, but it's so important, is resilient. Being resilient, having that resilient mindset. Now, if you look at Colonel Sanders, the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise, Colonel Sanders, or if you look at a J.K. Rowling, or if you look at a James Dyson, or if you look at a Thomas Edison, and I can go on and on. Jack Canfield, Robin Sharma, all these uh, all these leaders, successful leaders, they had one thing in common: is they never accepted a negative outcome. In other words, if they wanted to publish a book like J.K. Rowling, she went to the first publisher and she was told, "Sorry, we are not going to publish your book." Her belief was strong enough. She went to the second one. She went to the third one. She went to the fourth one, fifth one. In some instances, the successful leaders, they have attempted over 150 times as well, but they never gave up. They might tweak their approach, but they never gave up. Resilience, my dear friends, is key to your growth. And I'll pass it over to Soin. He'll give you a couple of examples, and maybe Soin, you can share a couple of examples. Maybe we were talking about the swimming example or something on those lines.
Off the hat, I can tell you one very famous example, and that is, I'm sure all of you enjoy the and laugh in the series of Mr. Bean. This guy, Rowan Atkinson, I'm sure you know how many times he has been rejected. How many times he was actually he had gone for interviews or for many shows, many radio shows. He just had to. He didn't give up, and finally, at an opportune moment, when one of the producers and director also saw the talent that is there. I mean, look at the guy where he is right now. So this is something that is um, what is proof of results or proof of concept of being resilient, being focused and being on one direction, making sure that you are heading there. And what Vijay says, if you have set a spot and you really have, you're putting all your energies and spirit into it, boss, I mean, nothing can stop you. So the other thing which Vijay is trying to allude to, and we were laughing just before this live event, and we used to say, I mean, how does a person learn how to swim? And I think my experience was very simple. At the age of 5.5, I was just thrown in the deep end, and I was told, "Listen, you got to make it. How you do it is your problem." And from that day onwards, I mean, yes, we had to struggle and catch my breath and try to pedal across. But you made it, and that is what it is. And the most important thing is, how does a leader, when he's thrown in the deep end, how does he struggle? Some leaders have the chance to learn the ropes and to get where they want to. But there are some others who are thrown in the deep end of struggling companies, and they have to make sure that they turn around and get to where they want to get and get the ship out of troubled waters. Of course, getting ships out of troubled waters is another topic for another day. But simply put, it's a topic for, I mean, this is all about resilience. So, Vijay, over to you.
Thanks, Soin. Yes, yes. It took me a bit longer. I mean, much later for me to learn how to swim. But again, it's it's the practice that is required. You fall a couple of times, and it's the same in businesses as well. It's having that resilience, the persistence, and the commitment and the conviction as well, to make sure that you carry on, go on with the game, look into the next moves, but be resilient. That is a powerful indicator of a successful leader. Another key element of a successful leader, and I might be moving slightly on a different tangent altogether, is being humble. The character of being humble. And how does one leader become humble? Is when they treat everybody with respect and recognition. in one particular company which grew 20-fold. I was in that particular company at a very at a, one of the executives. Here's what the leader did: is that he was so humble. He used to talk about everybody's families as well. He used to spend time making sure that he has enough time to talk about everything with the team members as well. He would space out that particular time just to ensure that he speaks with all the executives at the top level, and he sort of was pressing upon us to talk to our subordinates in that same manner. And the culture was fantastic, the motivation was high, and the productivity level was high. We had a high performing team as well, and the company grew 20-fold. This was one of the key elements of that humbleness as well. And maybe so you might have an insight on being humble.
I think the best part about being humble, is all about not only being yourself but being simple and knowing the simple things that can move people. It's all about people, as we say. So when you address the simple issues that is nagging them, and actually getting out of your comfort zone and actually talking to them, and uh, having a mindset, or having the care attitude, these small things matter. And when they are addressed, companies actually not only take off, they actually fly properly. And it's all about gaining the trust of all the staff. uh, that's very important. And at a leadership level, if you are humble, the trust factor is won very quickly. So this is very important aspect that needs to be taken up. Egos at any stage, whether with your customers or with your staff, can be detrimental. So that is one cancer that needs to be really not only medicated, but it needs to be cured and vaccinated up completely. So those are my few words on that. I mean, this is a very deep-seated issue that so many companies are facing, because I mean, over a period, of course, the leaders have accumulated wealth, and we sometimes laugh and we say that the money has reached a place where a person doesn't know what to do with it, and then it gets to the mind, and this is a disease, and then you lose touch with your staff, and humbleness goes out of the window. So this is something that really needs to be taken care of. It needs to be brought. I mean, people. I mean, the person or whoever it is, the leader needs to be brought back to the ground from the 50,000 feet, and actually, I would say, curl up your sleeves, and get your hands dirty, and talk to your staff, talk to them, hear them out. I think this is already, I'm touching on something to do with listening. I know it's another discussion that Vijay is going to share, but I think all this adds up very, very, very intensely to curing the issue of being humble, and getting in the right direction for an organization. I know I'm going very deep, but this is something that we encounter, and it's what brings organizations down. Over to you, Vijay.
Thanks. So yeah, very well said. And again, like we mentioned about humbleness, once you have that humbleness, you will be able to even make the right choices and decisions as well. Another key point, which I would like to share with you, is successful leaders learn how to say no. So they are not going to be distracted. In fact, I know leaders who just put their phone on airplane mode when they are focused and immersed. They do not accept any other disturbances or distractions. So they are laser focused, just like what I mentioned about focus, but they are also immersed. So they are so well immersed that uh, they are engrossed. They are one with whatever the project or initiative they have with themselves. They're not going to be digressed or distracted by anyone else coming up with another project or another shiny object. They will listen to opportunities only when they have the time. They won't let anybody intrude their time schedule. So they are very particular about how they use their time. They have those slots of time well sort of managed and controlled, and they make sure they have the highest return on their time. So it's highest return on leadership time. That is what effective leaders do. And we've seen this in successful leaders. In one particular instance, this was what was happening is the leader had that particular behavior to ensure that she would chunk out certain times where she wouldn't accept any distraction no matter what, except for any emergency where somebody could come in, her personal assistant. Besides that, there would be no one else who would distract or she would not be digressed from whatever she's working on her project. And then she has those chunk of times of collaboration and engaging with team members. She has a chunk of time of when she speaks to the clients or customers and other suppliers and other departments as well. So she was very well, she was managing her time extremely well, very well planned from the onset. So, you want to share anything on this one as far as learning to say no is concerned?
I think the issue of saying no to irrelevant distractions is very important and needs to be really addressed, because in this day and age we've seen people getting distracted by the mobile and the various apps that are there, Facebook being one of them. And when you analyze and see how much time is being put into this really irrelevant, I call it nonsense, because it just doesn't add any value to your organization. A person could be doing much more. How do I put it? Much more proactive or fruitful work when and that time is put to good use. So I think these are, to me, those distractions need to be really put away. So when you are in that mode of working, I think it's just important to switch off from those distractions, and get the work done. So I mean, when I say you got to manage your staff, when you got to lead your team, that requires focus, not being on Facebook and looking at what your friends are doing. Just It's just a wasteful activity, waste of time and energy. So I mean, that's why you find, I mean, it's to me, that's why you see all these marketing organizations making so much money out of, and Facebook itself making so much money, because people are getting distracted by what's happening there. So I think, okay, let me not be very general, but it's not only Facebook, but there are other things like WhatsApp also, or other small apps, Instagram, whatever it is. These apps are sometimes not adding much value to you. So I mean, no pun intended, or not, no personal issue there, but it's just not a positive aspect when it comes to leadership. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Over to you, Vijay.
Thank you, and very well uh, put there. Now we're already 44 minutes in. We'll try taking another 5 minutes, so we'll just take a few more points here. Another key point, and
Vijay,
this, by the way, sorry, yes,
Vijay, sorry, I would just like to appreciate our audience. Ole Olawun, all
Oh,
the way
okay.
from Nigeria. Thank you for appreciating us. And Ravi Davda of Rockstar Marketing, I just want to
Oh, hi,
mention,
Ravi. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Welcome to this session and taking your time to listen in. All the way again from UK. So, yeah, go ahead, Vijay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, guys. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Yes. Okay. So I just want to move into this other point, which is so important, and that is execution. My dear friends, this is an area which is a key weakness in many instances that Soin and I have come through. That is where the rubber meets the road. That is where the traction is. That is where the impact is. That is where the results come through. Yet we see weak execution in many instances. Now, if there is timeline set and if the right communication is in place with clarity, with impact, then you will see the results coming through. The missing link when it comes to execution is generic communication, not being specific. So you have to be hyper specific, if I would put it, if there is a word like that. But anyway, you have to be extra specific. You have to be completely 100% sure about what results to expect. It doesn't take long. It's just an investment. It's a skill set that you need to develop and a mindset that you need to make sure that you execute. Now, again, going back to the example of another company which was highly successful, one of the key thing was is that this particular leader, he was the owner of this company, and they had about 200 staff. But he made sure that every 3 weeks he would have a meeting of 1.5 hours with his top team members. This is the interdepartmental meeting that he would have. But the level of precision and the clarity of what to expect from each department was completely well sort of, it was like a blueprint they had. And I mean, he was getting the results. He was getting the results that he was expecting. And he used to have another session of asking them to come up with ideas, so empowering as well. So there was another session. But when it came to execution, every 3 weeks, he had that 1.5 hour meeting. So, do you have an example? Because this execution, we can have a whole session just on execution.
I think execution is all about discipline, discipline. When you have laid out plan and you make sure you adhere to it and you follow up and make sure things are done. That is what it is. So at various levels, we say when a meeting is happening and even a small aspect is mentioned, making sure that that aspect is addressed and issue a solution is delivered and the result is obtained and reported on, that is what is called execution. Yes, execution at times can become can fall short. That's what needs to be addressed. And we have seen so many examples where a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders give only a half-hearted approach towards execution. They have they have a fantastic laid out strategy, but where they fall short is the follow through and the execution of the entire plan. And then the issue is you keep on complaining and you keep on having excuses as to why um, the results are not following suit and your plan is not falling in place. So this issue of execution is very important because no matter, yes, of course, we would have to balance out at what costs you're taking the actions. But at certain times, when you are moving at a stealth pace, and yes, there are certain costs that need to be attended to. But when you get things done and decisions are taken I think I'll just go back to certain earlier point, and that is, the 80-20 rule. Certain at times when instead of suffocating your subordinates, if we are able to empower them, out of in most cases where people are mentored and coached, they would take 8 out of 10 decisions and they would end up with results. So execution is all about how, not only how to get the things done, but also how to empower the people in the right way so that they are enabled to take decisions. What happens is when you doubt their capabilities and you're not able to allow them to take decisions, is then what happens next is that they don't take decisions at all, and the ball ends up at your court because there are no results, and you get into a situation whereby you're questioning why things have not been done. So my example is very clear, is that when you are talking about execution, make sure you empower the staff, allow them to take the decision and to be responsible and accountable for them. And when all these things come, that is the recipe for success. Over to you, Vijay.
Fantastic. Thanks, Soin. Another point we want to now move to is having some level of urgency as well, having an urgency mindset. Now, there's a difference between being impatient and urgent. You have to have the urgency mindset. Now, why do you need an urgency mindset? Again, this is a skill set. Without having a high level of anxiety or without being stressed or frustrated, an urgency mindset will help you to accelerate results. An urgency mindset will also help you to use your time appropriately. This is what we have noted, is to have an urgency mindset to keep pace with the global changes as well, which means that you are making sure that all the relevant activities and the relevant things happening within your ecosystem and within the environment are sort of, you have a grasp of what is going on. And that development of that urgency mindset is going to, that's an art, that's a skill itself, which is going to really help you to elevate to the next level. And it's an enjoyable process, not being frustrated or having that anxiety, but it would be a very enjoyable process if you look at it. And what are you doing when you have that urgency mindset is you're also helping the team to develop and become more productive as they move forward. So this is completely different from others, but the successful leaders know exactly how to add pace, how to accelerate growth and non-linear growth as well by having that urgency mindset. So this is a really powerful point. So you want to add something to it?
Oh yes, and this is something that is so close to me because at several in several meetings, and the issue comes in is that because we are young at heart, and this is where we are told that why are you so impatient? The point is, I mean, when a person, when a leader is accountable, is responsible, is committed, if that in that recipe, again I allude to recipe, if he does not have the urgency mindset, then there is a problem. So all these things together means that person is complete, and those are the kind of guys organizations require to take them to the next level. The problem where the problem what we have seen, and this is something to touch on, is when it comes to succession planning, and the person who is the senior and has been handling companies as a leader for many years, and there comes a time when you need to hand the baton over, and there is hesitation. So what we have seen is the usage of this excuse to say that you are impatient on the younger guys, and that, ultimately what happens is that actually demotivates not only the second generation, but even the leader who wants to come up. So if you put it simply, it's a suffocation of the talent. This talent needs to be shine. Yes, you can give it a bit of a timeline, no doubt, but don't drag that aspect. And if need be, give that baton over in terms of with the guidance and a complete framework. When you get together leaders who can help the young leader to come up with the right guidance, I mean that is the success coming, and it's being beckoned. So herein what lies is that, again, the aspect of making sure that you surround yourself with people who carry these values, and the aspect of making sure that you surround yourself not only people who are even more brighter or more cleverer than you. I think I might be missing the right words to describe that kind of a clique, but ultimately when a person surrounds oneself with leaders who are even better than themselves, that is what leads to the growth and the success of an organization. So I think I've covered a lot of things in this aspect of having an urgency mindset, but I have seen a million times a lot of the young generation, when they exhibit this kind of thing, they are being misread as being impatient. I think there needs to be a balance, and there needs to be a very, um, how do I put it, a clear cut path of how this baton needs to be handed over. When a person who has that kind of attribute and is put in the dark or is in gray area, that is a recipe for disaster. Over to you, Vijay.
Thanks. And I think you summed it up pretty well. So, just like what Soin mentioned, he even mentioned that successful leaders are committed. Successful leaders, they shoulder full responsibility. They own up. So, in other words, they are accountable as well. They have a growth mindset. If you see where I'm coming from, they're going to focus 90% on the solutions and 10% on the challenge or the problem they have. These are key ingredients. And the last point I want to share is there are three types of listening. And I'll share why this is so important when it comes to a successful leader. The first type is that you're listening to somebody, but your mind is somewhere else. So you're listening, but not paying that much attention. That is passive listening. The second type of listening is listening actively. So, in other words, you are attentive and you are listening actively. But the third type of listening, which makes successful leaders, is listening with empathy. In other words, connecting with the feelings, the emotions as well. That in itself brings out a different level of heightened um, energy, a success which is completely different, which is a different level altogether. That is where the intelligence comes into play. That is what successful leaders do, is they listen with empathy. They take time and listen with empathy. So this is what I really wanted to sum up with. So do you have anything to add, and then maybe a couple of tools which you can share?
No, I think you've really adequately addressed, and I really love the aspect of listening with empathy. I myself, for one, working on that aspect, and of course, none of us are perfect, and it's important to actually understand that when you're not perfect, where are your weaknesses, and addressing them as oneself. So this is one of the things I say self mastery is what comes in, and that is something Vijay has always been advocating, and I do hope a lot of the leaders take up that aspect. And let's go into the topic of tools that need to be taken up to address some of the challenges. And I know I've given up I've given away some of these points in my discussions, and that's the reason. I mean, we are always in a flow, and this is a live event. And sometimes when we are discussing, the thought processes are coming through right from our mind. To be honest, we don't prepare. It's a natural thing, and we are discussing the points as we go along. So yes, I will talk about one of the point that is very important, and that is meditation. Being taking the time out to meditate and to actually focus on your inner self, inner alignment, and keeping away the various distractions and various other thoughts that are crowding your mind out. This is very important because it gives your soul the peace, and that is where your again your soul is needs to be rejuvenated. This is very critical. I'm sure Vijay will add more to this.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, when it comes to, we all go to the gym every single, I mean, many of us go to the gym or do some form of exercise every single day. So daily there is that exercise. Similarly, we need to even train our brain. That is something that we spoke about, learning and development. At the same time, nourishing our brain with the right, how shall I put it, the right purity and the thought process itself. So what you really need to do is, if you can even spend 5 to 10 minutes just meditating. And by the way, meditating, I'm not saying from a religious perspective, but from a scientifically proven methodology as such. So, just spending 10 minutes a day, invest 10 minutes in meditating, and you will see the effectiveness. You'll see the changes taking place. There's certain research which says that within 3 weeks, I believe, you're going to start seeing the results, the positive results. If you meditate consistently for 21 days, and you will see some sort of an outcome and result. So, imagine if you continue that on a daily basis. So that is very key and critical. Another key element, and I think we're just summing up, is that make sure you have an abundance mindset rather than limiting yourself. Uh, Make sure you have that abundance mindset. And another final point I want to share here is that don't compare yourself with anybody. I mean, I'm sure you're not, but if you come across anybody, make sure they don't compare or judge others, because that is so important. And being authentic, just like Soin and I, we don't prepare for these sessions much, and I think 90% just comes out. So be authentic, be yourself. That is what everybody is really looking for, is for you to be yourself. And rather than having that control mindset, have a caring mindset. Care, have that care and trust with your employees, with your subordinates, with your delegates, with your associates. Have that caring mentality as well. So that will give you that mental bandwidth to grow as well and build capacity. So any last words before we wrap up?
I think it's very clear. I mean, yes, I mean, what all these aspects, all these tools are very important. But yes, nothing comes in a day. I'll give you an self example. When we were readying ourselves for the event on 14th March, a
Last
month
year.
before
Last year.
that, yeah, last year, I'm sure Vijay will allude to this. We were not ready for what was coming at us, but gradually we attuned ourselves and we readied ourselves. And I can say almost 1 year and 3 months down the line, taking this now to the next level with a lot of push and pull between both of us, we have now come to this level of going live without much practice, I must say. So this is what we are, and we stand by what we are saying here, and that is being authentic. And this is what will command, bring the inner abilities, innate abilities out. Each one of you have that innate abilities within you. Vijay has clearly brought out some of the innate abilities in myself, and I must appreciate this aspect. We would definitely not be at this level, Vijay, without your honest intentions and honest inputs and honest push at times getting me out of my comfort zones. So there you go. It's actually what you set out and what you want to achieve, and ultimately this is where you will end up. The road will not always be smooth. We ourselves have gone through a very rough patch also, but if what we say is that if the life was a straight line, would it be very interesting? I mean, it's as good as saying that, when you go to a hospital and you see that monitor, it's always beeping, it's going up and down, right? It's having a wave. Now imagine when it goes into a flat line, what does that tell you? Basically, either the machine is not put on the man, on the person or a lady, or the person has passed away. So every person has to go through the wave and come out of it. And another important aspect that is there for leaders, and this is also a tool that everyone has to go through the fire. For a diamond, for a coal to be sharpened, to be polished, is utmost is very important. Every person has to go through that, through the harshness of the fire, and various tools that are needed to polish the diamond, ultimately to become the diamond that you are wanted to become. And everyone is a diamond. So those are some of the things that I just want to share as we wind up this session. I know we have slightly crossed the 60-minute mark in this session. I do apologize for that. Of course, we'll keep on improving these live sessions. But I think last but not least, I must thank all our audiences who have joined us from across the globe. We will keep on sharing more and more value as we go along. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Soin, for those lovely words, and thank you very much. And likewise, I appreciate your input, your insights as well. I mean, together, I think we've got such a big heightened level of strength. This is why always have those right people with you, and just make an impact, just move to the next level all the way. So thank you very much. God bless you, and I look forward. Sorry, Soin and I, we both look forward to seeing you in the next live event. We will share with you more nuggets, value nuggets, for you to improve, for you to grow, for you to have that excellence mindset altogether. Thank you very much. Bye for now.